Say that date time again.
Monday at 5.
Ex Machina. Monday at 5 in the Cooper, right? Emily, in Cooper, right? In Cooper. Right. Thank you. All right. All right. You remember, I'm sure. Let me quiet, please. Liz, the guy who's getting off, Dr. Kendi is giving each one of you. Okay? Our beloved peer mentors, will be doing the lottery for you right now. Okay? And here's the rules. All the sections responded to me. So I believe I have all the names that were reported to me. That's first. The second thing, what goes to the first name of a student who is here right now. Okay? Go.
Still going to show that we care and that we have a voice and that this isn't over, okay? And if you can't make it tonight, I want you to start with one thing. I want you to turn to your friends of color. I want you to turn to the women in your life, the LGBT friends that you have in your life, the immigrants you have in your life. I want you to hold them tight and I want you to tell them that you love them and that you will protect them, okay? And I want you to keep that promise. We gave up our privilege of being apathetic last night. We don't get to not care anymore. We don't get to not be engaged. Okay? Tonight isn't about changing the fact that Donald Trump will be our new president. Tonight is about showing that we still care and that we still have some fight in us. Because I am tired of letting baby boomers decide a future that they have no part in. This is us now, okay? And this is what this class is all about. It's time for us to form our identity as a generation. Thank you. 8 o'clock.
At 1 p.m. in the hub, they're doing a conversation related. This was planned before the results were known, so it wasn't necessarily planned for either outcome, right? But it's called In Solidarity at 1 p.m. in the hub. Everyone is welcome, and it's an open and facilitated space to be in dialogue and conversation about this. So I know a lot of people don't quite know where to go to articulate the things that they're thinking and feeling wherever you are on this election. The hub, we're really lucky to have it as a space on this campus, and they're doing that at 1 p.m. right after this today, so I encourage some of you to go.
So some of you can wander over together. Without further ado, Dr. Sullins has been very patient. Thank you very much. We have a distinguished speaker who has spoken to us many times, and Dr. Sullins was a faculty member in our program, a great friend of our program. He is a professor in our philosophy department, a highly regarded teacher, a very popular teacher. His PhD is from SUNY Binghamton. He does all kinds digital age. Okay? He's going to talk to you some about that kind of thing. His research has earned him many awards and accolades. He also, just so you know, is the guy who teaches everybody in our drama department how to fight with swords. John Sullins, warm up.
Sound good? Okay. So, it's kind of hard to give a lecture after big, gigantic world events, and you're probably a little distracted. But I want you to let all that go for a moment and start thinking about a topic that I noticed that both parties are not paying much attention to. So it's hard to find anybody in the political landscape that's paying much attention to this. And I think it's where we're at is a fundamental problem that's as big as global warming. And that is how technology is changing just exactly what we are and the kind of bodies that we live in, and what that's going to do to all kinds of political and racial issues. So I'm going to start off with a little film here. It's going to be kind of weird, but the topic I study is weird, and just get weird with me, all right? So can we hit the lights for a minute?
John, turn off your mic.
Turn off my mic. For good?
Hey, we've got something. I mean, this is the first time we've had it on. No, there's not enough light. Is this a light on me?
No.
Can we put the light on me?
That's a performance artist. His name is Stellar. He's an Australian guy. And he's really interested in just exploring what are the limits of the human body. So in that particular bit...
Mike, John, Mike.
You can see I'm not a very good cyborg. So he's trying to explore the limits of the human body and how technology can modify it and whether or not we can extend what we count as a human body. So you'll notice he had an extra arm, right? And an extra arm. So the idea here is, yeah, if I lost my arm, I could replace it with a prosthetic, right? But what if I don't want to lose my arm? What if I don't want to wait until I lose my arm? What if I just want an extra arm? Right? I could just strap a prosthetic onto myself and walk around with 3 arms, 4 arms, 6 arms, right? So that's what we're going to talk about today. I do philosophy, mostly philosophy of technology, and I'm primarily interested in the intermeshing of technology and humanity in lots of different ways. So that's who I am. And here we go. So you see this in a lot of college campuses. I don't think it's written anywhere on ours, but this Greek saying here, notheseaton, what does that mean? Notheseaton. It was inscribed above the Greek oracle, And the Greek oracle was a place that you went to find out, like maybe if you're sort of soul searching today, your whole world has changed and you don't know what to do about it. If you're an ancient Greek, you might go to the oracle and ask the oracle for some, have the gods answer it, right? What the hell are they going to tell you? And this was the motto above that. So you're walking in, I want to know what's happening because America's changed so greatly, I don't understand it anymore. I'm going to go talk to Apollo through Apollo's avatar. And this was the warning as you walked in, right? The warning was, know thyself. Why is that why would you have that warning? You're about to talk to God, and God says, before you open your mouth, I got to tell you one thing. Know yourself. I'm waiting for an answer. Why know yourself? Why do you have to know yourself before you talk to God? Yeah. That's right, because the answer you're going to get is going to be a cryptic one, and you're not going to be able to completely understand it unless you know where you're coming from, right? So that's sort of the first part of this lecture. It's a main root. It's become kind of one of the main roots of Western philosophy. It enters the canon through Socrates and Plato. Socrates showed up at the oracle to ask the oracle a question, and the oracle said, Socrates, you're the most wise person ever, most wise person ever. He didn't quite understand the answer. So this is the temple at Delphi. This is where that oracle would have been. It's just a ruin now, but right here is where you would have walked in through the inscription, Nothe Seaton, and you would talk to somebody like this. So this is the oracle of Apollo, and she would be sitting there on a chair, and there's a crack in the ground, and what's coming up out of that crack? Like sulfurous fumes, right? Sulfurous fumes. So you would ask her a question, and she'd cover her head with that, breathe in these fumes, right? Kind of like this, right? Right? Whoa. Okay? And then she'd give you an answer, right? Then she'd give you an answer. Okay, so that's how you talk to Apollo. So no one is wiser than Socrates, is what she says. So Socrates makes a pilgrimage up there, and she tells him no one's wiser, which sounds good, except to Socrates. A lot of people might have accepted that as a really great answer and really made their life, but Socrates was this guy, right? He's this schlumpy kind of loser, didn't really dress well, he was ugly. Nobody thought of him as the pinnacle of Greek culture, and he asked himself, like, why am I the wisest person in the Greek world, right? What makes me so wise? I'm an idiot. I'm a schlump. So the answer that he comes to is he takes the saying on the wall, right, and he tries to answer it, right? Okay, in order to understand why the gods consider me the wisest person in Greece, I have to know myself, right? What is it about me that makes me wise? So he asked, himself, what am I? Who am I? What do I do? And then he goes, I get it. I now know. I know why I'm the wisest person in the Greek world. It's because I'm the only person in the Greek world that knows he's not wise. Right? I'm the only one that walks around the streets of Athens and admits I don't know shit. Right? Every one of the dialogues that Socrates is in, he walks up to somebody who's big and powerful and seems to know something, and he asks them questions. Like he says, I don't know anything. I'm asking you questions. And as he asks the questions, it always turns out that this person doesn't really know anything about law, doesn't really know anything about justice, doesn't know anything about politics, doesn't know anything about ethics, and yet they're all priests and lawyers and judges and people who claim to know this stuff, right? So Socrates is this sort of ultimate outsider, right? And and he's the one that knows he knows nothing, and therefore that's what makes him wise. Philosophy's changed a lot since then, but one thing that we continue to do in philosophy is we always try to ask this question first. Whatever philosophical question we're interested in, we have to know who it is we're talking about. What is humanity? How do we define humanity? The answer is going to be different depending on on what we consider ourselves to be. So we tend to do this through empirical and rational inquiry, and we've picked up this thing from Socrates that we keep for thousands of years, and that is that philosophers are always skeptical, right? So if you would have talked to me yesterday, I'm super skeptical of Trump, and I'm super skeptical of Hillary. I'm super skeptical of all those assholes, right? All of them, right? Super skeptical. So you know, it was going to be today was going to be a bad day for me no matter what, right? It was just going to suck, right? Okay, so let's ask this question. What are we? What kind of person, what kind of things are we? So I'll try to get through this fast. How much time do we have until? 10 till. Okay, so I got to do this fast. So hopefully you've taken some of this stuff before and you have an inkling of this story already. So we can kind of I like to look at our distant past. So I'm interested in evolutionary biology and that kind of stuff. And so one place where I like to start this story is with these folks. So this is a cast of a hominid skull, Homo habilis. But what's really interesting is where you find these skulls, you also find these rocks, right? They're co-located with each other all the time, right? What's this thing? What's that? Arrow? Not an arrow. I haven't made arrows yet. This is like 2.5 million years ago, something like that. What is this? What's that? It's a rock. And yes, it's a hand axe, grrr, right? That's how you use this, right? So it's not just a rock, like some monkeys and some animals, right, will pick up a rock and they'll smash stuff with it, right? That wouldn't be anything new or different. What's interesting about this rock? What can you tell about this rock that makes it different from what other animals do? It's got a sharp edge, right? This rock has been modified. This rock was picked up because it had a certain shape, and then it was modified to have a different shape, right? And this rock gets put into the hand, and now my hand is a rock, right? Now my hand is a rock. So this thing, little monkey, stood about this tall, right? And was able to do this kind of stuff. And it's one of our distant ancestors. Okay, 2.5 million years ago, first evidence of the hand axe. Now, this is really interesting. So, the very first one of these guys, right, very first time you saw one of these Homo habilis, the first evidence we have of Homo habilis, they've got the hand axe. Close to 500,000 years later, when they die out, you still see exactly the same hand axe, right? So the first Homo habilis carried a hand axe. The last one carried a hand axe, right? There was no change in that entire time. Now we're going to skip ahead, right? Because I'm not really an anthropologist, and you can get the whole story from an anthropologist. But we're skipping ahead to Homo sapiens, who are our closest relatives. That's what we are all in this room, and they have kind of an interesting, different story. So they start out kind of looking, at least to us, like these kind of people. Oh well, actually, this is the Homo habilis right here, using the hand axe as it was used to clean meat and stuff. All right, let's skip ahead. Okay, now we get into Homo sapiens, right? These guys. So these are the kind of guys that you are most closely related to. So things have really changed, right? What do you notice here? He's got clothes, for one thing, right? So there's some evidence that they wore some kind of clothes. And this painting is probably a little off because he probably would have been decorated with, his whole body would have been painted in different colors and stuff. It's another thing you notice. He's got a spear, and not just any spear. That's a pretty special spear. What's that thing that's in the back there? That adds leverage, right? Sometimes it's called adaptable in South America, where it's still used. But this little piece of technology, right? You wouldn't be sitting in this room if it wasn't for that little piece of technology, because that little piece of technology allows this guy and his friends to take down mastodons, right? Take down things that a creature like this has no business being able to kill. You can kill with this kind of technology. It's got a bone sharpened tip up there. There's a ton of technology going in here. The animal is killed, and then his bones are used as a weapon to kill the next animal, and bits of the sinew are used to wrap it on here. There's a lot of technology here. Anybody in here scouts of any sort? Girl Scouts, Boy Scouts, anything like that? Just you and me? Is that true? Is this like a generational thing? Holy cow. That's not possible. Got one more? Awesome. Yes. Have you built a spear? No, but I have thrown adaptable. You have thrown an adaptable. What's it like?
It's really fun. They go super far.
It does, doesn't it? Yeah. And what's really interesting about this technology, what makes it actually superior to a bow, is the fact that you can learn it. Like if I took you guys all out and we threw, I've done this on campus and I got busted by the cops, so I can't do this ever anymore. But it doesn't take long, right? I can just show you within 4 or 5 throws, you're just about as good as you'll ever be with that thing, right? And you can get really good, really fast with this piece of technology, unlike a bow. A bow takes a long time and it's hard to take care of, and it would be hard to hunt. Like if the zombie apocalypse comes, don't go with that stupid crossbow thing, right? This is the one. That's the one that's served us well for millions of years and serve us into the next million. Okay. Here's another technology. What's this woman doing? There's a couple of really interesting things about what she's doing here. She's grinding. What's she grinding? She's grinding red ochre, right? So she's taking a rock, grinding the red pigment out of it, right? What do you do with that? Can you eat it? You paint. You paint. You turn it into body paint, right? You can make yourself red. Why? For prestige, that's really good. That's a good point, right? That's different, right? So I understand, like, I need to get a stick and I got to figure out some way to take down that mastodon or I starve to death, but what's the prestige about? That doesn't help me take down the mastodon, or does it? Markings look more threatening, not to the mastodon, but to other people, right? Yeah. Yeah, this is a communication technology, right? It's just an early form of this thing, right? The whole reason you want to have one of these is the same reason she wants to have this. All right? It's all about communication, showing people who you are, what your status is, what tribe you belong to. Same thing with the armbands and stuff, right? It's really complex stuff. And we're spending hours of our day doing this kind of activity, not just brute survival. Okay, so got to hurry. Technology and Homo sapiens, right? Tell the story really fast. So unlike the Homo habilis, Homo sapiens pick up the hand rocks, right? The first Homo sapiens had the hand rocks, but they started innovating. So here, this guy right here is working with obsidian and learning how to flake obsidian. Did you learn how to flake obsidian?
I've done it before, yeah.
Excellent, right? Everybody should, right? It's the whole reason you join scouting, right, is to learn how to flake obsidian. It's awesome because it's really hard, right? You think it's just like, I'm just going to hit 2 rocks together, right? And it turns out it's not, because when you do that, you just break it, it shatters, it's a piece of shit. And to make something like this is really, really, really hard, especially with these little knocks in here to tie it onto an arrow. It takes years of skill to learn how to do this kind of stuff, which means that this person has to, in order for us to move forward technologically, this person has to learn the skill and then pass the skill on to somebody else who then starts a little bit ahead of the game and can innovate a little bit, and then that person can transfer it, and the next person can innovate a little bit more. And you do this for some period of time, and what you get is a vast number of, where's my picture of tools? Oh, I lost my tools, darn it. Let's go back here. I had this really great picture of the evolution of stone axes, which is awesome, but it looks like that picture's not coming in. But you can kind of see it here, right? See these? All these various different, this is just from the Pacific Northwest, right? Oregon area and stuff. So all these different kinds of tools, right? All this innovation. So the point I'm trying to make here is that Homo habilis used tools, right? It used the same tool. Every Homo habilis used the same tool all the way through their run until they were extinct. Homo sapiens are different. We innovate tools. Every culture, every Homo sapien culture starts with some rough tools and innovates on top of it and grows and grows and grows, which allows us to discover areas of life that other creatures on this planet have not been able to get to, namely agricultural revolution and then the Industrial Revolution. Okay, some more to say there, but I will leave it. And then, here's what I want you to think about. So the agricultural revolution, so we live as Stone Age people from about 200,000 years ago till about 12,000 years ago. 12,000 years ago, we pick up agriculture, and we live in agricultural lifestyle until about 250 years ago, when we picked up the industrial way of life. And then just 50 years, like from the time I was born, right, until now, we've just started into this new revolution. And it's as big as the stone tools, it's as big as fire, it's as big as steam power. It's the digital revolution, right? And we're in the midst of it, and we might be ready for the next one already, right? So even before I die, like within one generation, we will go through 2 epoch-changing, Homo sapien-changing revolutions. So that brings us back to this question, right? I think this was probably an easy question to answer for early Homo sapiens, right? We're the guys that throw sticks, right? Now, what are we, right? What are we? So let's try to get a better answer to that question, a more philosophical answer. So here's our first answer. Maybe we can just say, look, what we are at our very soul, the core of us, is we like to make tools, right? So tools might be answer number 1. Okay, let's explore that idea a little bit. Okay, so if we are tool-using creatures, what's it take to be a tool-using creature? Well, the first thing is, the thing that we must have that's different than the Homo habilis is that our brain is a little bit different. It's probably the case that Homo habilis came out of the womb and knew how to make that rock, right? That rock making trick was probably in their genes somewhere. Just like birds make nests, so it's just sort of in their genes. They just are born able to make the nest. We're not that way. When we're born, we have the power to make a lot of different things, but none of it is encoded in us. We have to spend a lot of time learning. We have to do what you guys are doing. How long have you guys been in school? 13 years. What other creature does that, right? Spends 13 years just getting ready to start being an adult, right? No other creature does that. And we can do it because our brain is so plastic, right? Scott and I and the other teachers are in here, and what we're doing is we're just like, if you could see what we're doing, we're like massaging your brain, and we're trying to sculpt it into our image, right? Right? That's what we do. That's our whole career. See, just like that. We make you take your brain out, and then we poke it and try to make you vote our way. Okay. The other thing that makes that is important for this is that we have to have language, right? I couldn't give a lecture if there wasn't a way, if we didn't have language, right? Probably Homo habilis didn't have much of a language, if any. So they weren't capable of doing this kind of stuff. We also then have to have a culture. Cultures transmit, like when you look at something like this, right? This is something that this person's ancestors made many thousands of years ago, and it tells, it's like a loudspeaker, right? It gives messages right to this guy from 1,000 years ago, right? So I can talk to you in this room, I can write stuff down, I can write a note to my wife, and I can write a book that would hopefully last hundreds of years, hopefully, because I'm such a great author. And people would read it way into the future. So I can talk to people that I will never meet way off into the future. So the point I want to drive at right now is that what happened in the last 50 years is we've built a suite of technologies that allows us to do all that stuff I just mentioned, but we've enhanced all of it. We've enhanced all of it, and we've supercharged it, and it's that machine right there, right? And even that's sort of a little dated, right? I need to get a picture with the new MacBook. All right, so skip through this quicker, because I don't think you guys did any of this reading. Sometimes I have you do this reading and talk about how our brain adapts to its environment. So I'll just skip through that. Okay, so we've got this body that allows us to make tools. Encased in this body is this brain, which is super plastic and capable of mixing with tools and changing our own environment. So this brings us to answer 2. So answer 1 is all about tool use. Answer 2 here is once you start paying attention to this, it starts to get hard to think about where does your brain begin and end, especially when it comes to learning. You've got all this learning technology. I see all this learning technology in this room right now. The most important is these writing instruments, right, and the paper that's in front of you. But some of you are using computers. You can type your notes in. There's different learning technologies, right? If I took all those learning technologies away from you, it would be harder for you to learn, right? You'd find the job harder to do. So our tools, right? So this is the argument. See if you can follow it. The argument is, I'm arguing that your brain isn't only just this that's encased inside your skull. This thing is a part of your brain. The paper is a part of your brain. And especially this thing is part of your brain. What happens when you lose this thing? Do you panic? I panic, right? I panic. Why do I panic? Because I feel like I've just gotten a case of Alzheimer's, right? Because everything I want to know is in here. My whole schedule. I totally forgot I was going to give this lecture, right? And this thing beeped, and it goes, you have to give an FYE lecture. And I'm like, son of a bitch. Right? It's my brain. It's my brain. It's my brain in my pocket. Right? And this particular phone, I bought this phone because it's the new Google phone, right? And this new Google phone is, the reason I bought it is because it's connected up to all this cloud and AI software, right? So now I've upgraded my brain, right? I've upgraded my brain. I'm smarter than you now until you get the phone. Then you'll be as smart as me. And then I have to get the next phone, and I'll be smarter than you. All right, so let's talk about that for a minute. If you just want to follow me for a moment down this rabbit hole, right? This idea that we are essentially our tools. There's no difference between my physical hand and this thing when I'm using it skillfully and well. So I want to talk a little bit now about bodies and prostheses and technology, because this is getting really, really bizarre. This changes so fast now, I can't even keep up with this lecture. So this was an early, so that was the early prototype. This was a version of it from a couple of years ago. He's got a newer one, right? A newer one. And what this guy is trying to do is come up with a way that for certain people that still have their legs and stuff, but maybe are paralyzed or lost some functionality in their legs, that they can just get up and walk around, right? So you might need a wheelchair now, but if this guy has his way, he'll just get up and walk around. But you can't walk around looking like, you know, Optimus Prime all the time. So, so the idea is to get this, you know, smaller and not so well seen. So that's what he's been working on, and it's been going really well. There's this guy, total jerk, right? Murderer. But he was cool for a while, right? He was cool for a while when he was, this is Pistorius, right? And he was one of the first people to compete in the Olympics with this spring leg, right? And the reason I bring him up as an interesting case study is that prior to him, who would have thought? They wanted to kick him out of the Olympics, right? Why did they want to kick him out of the Olympics? Do you remember? This was back in the Sydney Olympics. Mm-hmm. Yeah, he had an unfair advantage, right? So here's the interesting thing. Who would have ever thought that missing a leg is an unfair advantage in a foot race? Right? It just sounds absurd, right? But it's true, and it's getting better, right? It's getting better, right? Will there come a day when, if I want to win a gold medal, I might seriously think about amputating my legs? Right? In order to win, right? If I don't, I can't run fast enough, right? So there's been more of these guys, right? It's getting to the point where the Special Olympics, right, might be more impressive than the regular Olympics, right? This guy is another example of somebody who the technology on this is advancing super rapidly. So he's missing both arms, right? And the one on the right is kind of a standard old-fashioned prosthetic that they've wired up a little bit, and then this is a slightly more modern one. And today, this guy's got a machine that allows him to get some rudimentary feelings out of the arms, right? So he can actually sort of feel if this is a hard thing or a soft thing, right? He can grab this with the right amount of pressure. You know, imagine if you got a robot arm and you don't know what the pressure is, you might just squeeze the bottle shut, right? And all the water flow everywhere. In order to pull that off, that's actually takes a lot of dexterity, and it's an interesting trick. He's got no arms, right? Yet he can still grab one of these things, and this is about 6 years old, this piece of technology. The one he has today is far better. We also have people who've lost limbs in our various adventures in the Middle East. So a lot of money has been pumped into this research to make arms that will allow these people to live normal lives. Okay. This one is, so this is the Swedish guy, and all those other arms that I was showing you, the way they work is I learned to control little muscles up here in my shoulder, you know, that you could control, but you usually don't, right? And then I wire into those muscles, and then twitching this just makes the elbow move, right? But I have to learn, I have to learn all these tricks. I have to think, you know, I got to twitch this muscle in order to move this, and so it's kind of hard to use. The goal is, like, how many of you think about it? Just reach out and grab something right now. How much thought did you put into that? Right? You didn't have to think at all about this, right? So the goal is to make prosthetic devices where I just think I want the bottle, and I grab the bottle, right? Okay, and this is a huge step in that direction. So this one has feedback directly into his brain a little bit. Okay, let's talk a little bit about Hugh Hare. His argument's important. I'll talk some more about him, I guess, during the roundtable if you want to get into this. But Hugh Hare, I'll just tell you this. He was a mountain climber. He got into an accident up on a high mountain and got stuck there for a day or so, and he lost both of his legs due to frostbite, right? So, career as a mountain climber over, right? turns out, though, that Hugh is also an engineer at MIT. So what Hugh did is he wasn't satisfied with the legs that were available, so he went in and designed his own, right? So he's designed his own legs, and what he does is he puts on a different set of legs for whatever task he wants to do. And he's got some super mountain climbing legs that look like little mountain goat legs. So they have little mountain goat feet on them, right? And he can scamper right up the mountain just like a mountain goat could, right? So it turns out that losing his legs was the best thing for his climbing career, right? And he's got this quote, which is what I'm going to want to talk about later tonight at the round table, which is, he says, every day I look in the mirror and my upper body is aging and getting worse. Every few months, I make myself new legs. My legs are always better, right? My legs are always better. As I get older, my legs are always better. As I get older, my natural body is always worse. Okay, there he is climbing. We'll just skip through that. Okay, we talked a little bit about mental prostheses, right? You got all this stuff. You guys are all using it in the room, books and paper and all that kind of stuff, the high-tech stuff. Some of you, I see you're using it, even though you were told not to. So my next question is, okay, so how far is this going, right? I know like the high-tech technology kind of bugs us because we weren't really from that generation. It doesn't bug you, but just, I want you to contemplate this question. When you're my age, what's going to bug you about people that are your age now, right? What are you going to be bothered with, right? Probably the thing that you're going to be bothered with is the fact that they've got all these mental implants, right? Their brain is going to be actually a computer, and they're going to be seeing all this stuff in 3D that you don't see. You're not even going to be in the same world with them. And they're going to know and say and do things that you can't follow. And you're going to go, goddamn kids. Okay, I'll talk about this at the round table too, but this is the first instance of, let's see, you know, prosthetics is an attempt to try to get you back to human capacity. What if we take this same kind of technology and try to advance you well beyond human capacity? So they start with these monkeys, right? And these monkeys learn to do things just with their mind. Like here, this is my favorite picture. Look at that monkey. See him over here? This little tiny guy, right? Don't mess with that monkey. He is controlling that arm, right? He's going to boom! Right? Give me a goddamn banana. Boom! Robo monkey. I don't know how smart it is to turn monkeys into cyborg soldiers, but we're doing it. I'll show you that video later tonight too, because we're sort of out of time, aren't we? Done. Stop it. There we go. Oh, I can't get out of it. There we go. Okay. Another field that I'm interested in is robotics, right? So this is an attempt to try to mentally control a robotic. So what if you could not just strap a piece of a robot onto you, but what if you just sat in a chair and your mind entered a robot body, right? And that robot body could be anywhere. Right here, you know, limits of the technology, it can only be a few feet away, but you can imagine in the far future, the soldier sits here in Creech Air Force Base in Nevada, and that body is fighting a war in Syria somewhere, right? And it gets shot. Who cares? I just enter another robot body and start running that around, right? That's where we're going, right? So I'm interested in God damn it. Go away. You are the bane of my life. Okay, so we're getting close to the end, aren't we? So here's some other things to think about, right? We can use this. NASA's already thinking about using this kind of technology. So if we can drop the latency period of this, we can go out and explore parts of our solar system which are really dangerous to us. You know, sending people to Mars is probably going to be really dangerous. Most of them will die. But if we send robots that they can inhabit and work on Mars, right? If the robot dies or is destroyed, who cares? You know, just send another one. Surgery, this is one of the areas that I write about. So we're changing what it means to be a doctor. So we're kind of leaving the paradigm in which a doctor opened you up and stuck their actual fingers into your body and did stuff with you, right? That's pretty much over. Now you sit over here, and the doctor's over here, right? And everybody else helping, all these medical professionals are off to the side, and they manipulate through this machine a robot, right? Which can do tiny, tiny little things in your body and do surgeries that are less invasive and less likely to kill you. So that looks like fun, doesn't it? Okay, now we can finally get back to this guy, all right? So here we are. So now we're back to the artist, Stellark. And he's been thinking about this for a long time, longer than me, actually. He's older than me. And his whole career has been about really pushing this idea from at an artistic level. Like, how can I just completely dismantle what I think it means to be a human and reconstruct that with different kinds of technology? So let's just take a look at his quote here. We have enough time to do that. So Stellark tells us death does not authenticate experience. It is an outmoded evolutionary strategy, right? We evolved, evolution for its own reasons evolved death because it helps strengthen our species, right? But do we have to accept that? We don't. The body need no longer be repaired, but could simply have parts replaced, just like you might do with your car. A tire blows on your car, you just replace the tire. If you can do that to your own body, imagine if your hand was destroyed and you could just put another hand on, right? If you could do that, then extending life no longer means existing, but rather being operational. Bodies need not age or deteriorate. They would not run down, nor even fatigue. They would stall and then start again, right? Possessing both the potential for renewal and reactivation. So you can see here, this is a video that you can watch on YouTube. And what he's doing is he's writing the word evolution, right? But he writes it from the front with the robot arm, and from the middle with his right arm, and then from the back with his third arm. So with 3 arms, he writes the word evolution into the center, right? Faster than you can write the word evolution normally, right? It's just a little trope, right? It's just an interesting idea to really think about. This idea that I want you to think about is, are we on the verge of becoming something totally different? In the same way that Homo sapiens have a hard time understanding what the lifestyle of a Homo habilis must have been, will that be your grandchildren trying to understand your life, right? You'll be as mysterious to them as a Homo habilis is to you, because their relationship with technology will be so deeper, so much more enmeshed, so incomprehensibly powerful that you'll have no idea what it means to be that kind of thing. In that case, we are moving to be something entirely different, a point that all the political parties are missing, right? They're still thinking about humans as humans, as Homo sapiens, right? That's not who we are anymore. It's not where we're going. All right, thank you very much.